Okay, so I'm going to show you how to put transitions in between clips. So for the most part, when you play your video, it just jumps from one clip to the next, which is a straight cut if I were to play
at Wellesley High School, and I'm 14 years old.
What is one thing you love about high school?
One thing that
So straight cuts are fine to use, but sometimes you might want to add a transition in between your clips, and that can either be in the form of blending two clips together with a dissolve, or there are some other options. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little closer on my timeline here. So I'm going to zoom in, and if you remember, you can move this bar at the bottom to zoom in a little closer to your timeline so you can see when each clip goes to the next. So I'm going to, if I just wanted to put a dissolve, which is blending two clips together, I can move my playhead to in between the two clips, and then if I hold Control down and click, or this is like a right click, you can do what they call the default transition. The default transition is a dissolve, so a cross dissolve. It can be in a crossfade. So the cross dissolve, if I zoom in here and look, the cross dissolve is the video, and it says constant power for the audio, which is still a dissolve. So you can see what it's doing already. If I were to play that, it's just a small blur in between the clips.
Cool.
one thing that I
But
really
it's a
like
nice way to go from one clip to the next. So it's not just a straight jump cut, it's a dissolve in between the two clips. So that's if I wanted to just use the default transition. So again, that's if I held Control down and clicked. Hold on, let me get rid of this first, and then I'll show you. If I hold Control down and click, it applies the default. But I can add some other ones if I don't just want the dissolve. So I'm going to go up here to the effects panel. And then you'll notice over here on the right, there's a folder that says video transitions. There's also one for audio as well, but that's mostly just dissolving clips together. So if I go into video transitions, I have all these folders, and then within each folder are even more options. So page peel is kind of a fun one. If I take this and just drag it down in between my clips, it's going to apply a page peel transition. So if I were to back that up and play it, that's what it looks like.
one thing that I really
Okay,
like
so that's kind of fun. You can go into the folders and just see what some of these do. Most of the time, just taking them and dragging them in between the clips and then playing it will show you what they do.
What is one?
Okay, so that one was the diamond. There's also cross, box. So if I wanted to actually go in and modify this transition or extend it or make it shorter, I can click on the transition and go over here to effects controls. So remember, I applied an effect, so now I can go in and control that effect. So up here, I can click and extend it. So it would, basically what it does is it extends it to this next part of the clip. I'm going to just undo that to show you some other options. I can change the border of the diamond. So if I move this number, I can play it, and it made the border around the diamond a little thicker.
What is?
I can go in and do the reverse of that, where the diamond would come into the middle.
What is one thing you love about high school?
Okay, now you notice that it's playing sort of glitchy here, and that means that I need to render. What rendering does is it goes through the effect frame by frame and smooths it out. So if you ever see red in your project, that means you have to render. So I can do that in a couple ways. If I go up to sequence and say render You can do pretty much any one of these, but I'm going to do render effects. So what it does is now it takes a few seconds. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending on what effect you have in there. But it's going to go through this rendering process, which smooths out all the effects that you put on your project. So you don't have to worry if it's yellow. You really just have to worry if it's red. And now you'll notice that the rendering now turned green. Okay, so then now if I wanted to play that, that's what it looked like. Now if I wanted to make it longer, I can just highlight it, go over here, and change the duration. Anytime you see something in blue, you can, and it turns into the little hand, you can click and drag your mouse left and right to modify the parameters. So now, notice I changed something and I'm going to have to re-render. So you don't really want to render until you have things looking exactly the way you want. Okay, so again, just to go over everything, transitions are effects you put in between clips. And to get there, you're going to go to Effects, and then this Video Transitions folder. And feel free to go into all these folders and see what each of them do, and apply it in between clips.
Here's a good question.
To make your project a little more interesting.